Welcome to another episode of the Make Mental Health Matter show. I am your host, Kelli Melissa Reinhardt, and I know I say it every single week, but I am excited for my guest this week. Mainly, well, I think it's going to be a really juicy conversation, but also, she is a host on E360 TV too, and I love just having partner hosts on the show. So I'm not gonna go into like too much detail, because I'm pretty sure once you hear a little bit more about her and her story, you're gonna be like, I think I want to stick around and listen to this conversation. So, Angela Skurtu is a sex and marriage therapist known for opening bedroom doors literally and metaphorically. She helps couples move from being great roommates to becoming great lovers again. No shame, no awkward silence, just real talk about real relationships. Like I said, she is also a host on E360 TV. She does couples retreats and recently is a best-selling author or best-selling anthology where she discusses getting sober from alcohol and fun event and a fun event dinner with sex therapists, which she has coming up on Valentine's Day. Like, if my mouth would work, that'd be great. Angela, thank you so much for joining me.
That's fine. So the sobriety thing doesn't necessarily lead into the event, but like that is a thing I did.
Fair enough. Okay, I was like, as I read it, I was like, did I
Oh
type
no.
that wrong?
I do have an event coming up Valentine's Day, February 14th, called Dinner with a Sex Therapist. And it's basically focused on turning couples into best friends and lovers, one laugh at a time.
That's awesome. I love that. And so I know you and I like recently, right? We like had a sit down and chat and once I saw the title of your show and everything, I was like, man, this has to be like the most interesting show ever. But I think it's all like a lot of my show is all about that conversation and giving people the tools or information that they might need or somebody else in their life might need. And I think that relationships more so, not all relationships, but oftentimes I guess if you've been married for a really long time or you're in maybe not married, right, but you've been in a partnership for a very very long time, sometimes it can get really stagnant in a way, I guess is the word that's
Mhm.
popping to my head. So I love what you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, and it's the Open Bedroom Door Show. So for anybody who might want to watch, it's every Thursday at 9 p.m. Central on E360.
Yay, that's awesome. Well, tell the audience a little bit more about your story. Like, what led you into wanting to do this type of work?
So it was a long time ago in a land far away. Literally, I was in Hawaii, and I it was somewhere in like 2004, 2005. I was in college, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for my life. You know, like what we all do in college. And I was the kid that always had like a list this long of like I want to do this, this, this. Like I literally have a list that I kept all these journals from childhood, and what's cool is actually I've done a lot of the things on the list. So I was kind of proud of myself reading back, like, oh, look at you, your little ADHD brain. I'm going to do this. And but anyhow, it was back in college and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And there's a trauma story associated with it. And there's also a fun story. So the trauma story is that I was raised in a very, very conservative religious background, like where shame was a lot of how we were taught about sex, shame and fear and hellfire on Christmas. It was a normal, it was a good Christmas if you didn't like, get preached like you're going to go to hell 3 times, right? And so a lot of the women that I grew up with were struggling with their sex lives pretty early on, actually, in their marriages. You mentioned like long, long, long. It's like, no, like within a year, they were having trouble with their sex lives after getting married. So they'd get married really young because, that's what happens when you're raised in a church like that is you want to have sex, but you can't because it's evil. And then you do have sex quick, or so you marry so you can have sex quick, but then you don't know what you want or who you are and what's comfortable. And it's really hard to make a shift from sex is bad to sex is good. And a ring doesn't suddenly fix it. And so I kept having all these friends coming to me and saying, oh my gosh, like I'm just having sex for him. And they're not talking to their partners. They didn't know how to talk to them. And that was the start. of those long marriages that just kind of got worse and worse. So that was the trauma story. The fun story is around that same time that a bunch of my friends were calling me and telling me their marriages were struggling. I found this lady, Talk Sex with Sue Johansson. She was this Canadian nurse who essentially like answered questions from people and about sex, and then she would rate sex toys, and like she was the original emoji giver because she would give burkettes, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm gonna do. That's the best idea ever. And then, that's where I am today. So it started all the way back to before that.
That's amazing. I mean, and it's definitely, yeah, it's one of those, it's not, I don't want to say it's taboo, but in a way it is. It's like, um, what was I just watched a show, shoot, it's been a little bit, but, not Gucci, it starts with a G, but they had one whole episode just around how women, like sex and, how to pleasure yourself.
Hmm.
Ultimately, it was the Gwyneth Paltrow,
Oh, the sex
doc.
loving goop.
Yes, that one. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, oh wow, okay, yep. I mean, I watched it and I was like, we don't really talk about these things, and people,
Hmm.
you feel a little awkward. I was born and raised Mormon, so that's how I grew up. No longer practicing, but yeah, it was definitely one of those things that you're like, I can't have sex until I get
Hmm.
married. And then I got pregnant when I was 15, and so I refused to like go back to Utah, which was where my dad was and that whole family, because I was like, they're gonna judge me, all those
Yeah.
things. So,
Exactly. Well, what ends up happening is when we treat sex like it's this evil thing, it actually puts it in the sympathetic nervous system in your body. So
mm,
when you're talking about it, when you're making decisions about it, you're more reactive. And so instead of being able to make those more conscious, like parasympathetic nervous system decisions, you're making them in the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight, flight, freeze, fawn system. And as a result, people don't make as many conscious decisions or don't like feel safe to ask for help for like condoms or birth control, whatever it is that they needed, or even like safe to say, hey, I'm not interested in having sex, but maybe we can make out, like setting boundaries essentially. Like those are all parasympathetic nervous system choices.
yeah. And I think that's an important conversation too, is like empowering, especially when we talk about youth, is like empowering them with the tools. And I know it
Yeah.
was always, because at least back in the like 80s and the 90s, right? Like they had so many campaigns around safe sex, and I feel like we don't have those anymore. I don't know. It's interesting.
No, there's no sex ed given at all. And most kids are getting their education through porn, which really sucks because that's more accessible. So imagine this dichotomy, right? Like you've got kids who are having no healthy sex education. They're not being taught, like, this is the way to do this in an appropriate or like safe way. And actually, you can talk to me if ever you need help. That would be keeping it in that parasympathetic nervous system. And then their first intro is porn, which is like, way further than they need to see or experience. So, like they're kids, right? So you end up actually the young generation right now is starting to do like hookups that are way more dangerous and unhealthy, and they're not talking about it. Like we have a joke in the sex therapy community, like don't choke on the first date, but like it's a real thing that's happening that like people are just doing this stuff because they'll see it in porn and they think that's what's normal, but it's because we haven't given them any tools or education for what healthy sex should look like.
Wow. I mean, that's fascinating. I always, I also reflect back, because when I took health, I was actually pregnant, and my health teacher was like, so if you have sex, that's what happens. And I'm like, thanks, thanks.
Thanks a lot. I could have used this a year ago, but cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, come on. I'm like, but I mean, he was probably the best health teacher ever. He actually, he had Tourette's, and he would like walk back and forth in the classroom. And so we talked about all kinds of things that probably they didn't approve in health, but I think it was really good because we talked about all those things. So, and that's what I think the important part, and I say this to, uh, anyone I talk to, parents, teachers, right? I'm like, we have to have these hard conversations because they're going to learn it somewhere. And if we're not telling them, right, they're going to learn it
Yeah.
from their friends or, like you just said, from porn or something else that's going to give the negative or the extreme aspects to it.
But I think we should also, I want to give my parents credit because I have a lot of people who talk to me about like, how do I talk to my kids? And the reality is this is generational, right? So like if your parents didn't talk to you, it wasn't modeled. So then what are you supposed to say? So I'm really appreciative of the parents of this generation. Like I'll see them as a couple, but then they'll also like throw in like, how should I be talking to my kids about this? Because I don't want to do this to my kids. I love that you had that in your school. I just think it's interesting because I feel like here it's the hands are tied and people can't talk about it at school at all anymore. Like they can't talk about race, they can't talk about sex. Like it is banned. Like is that what's going on in your area or?
I don't know. That's a good question. So I'm in Colorado. I don't know specifically. That would be really interesting. I believe that they still have health or my stepdaughter who's 22, she took health. But
Mhm.
my son's going into middle school, so that's interesting. I might have to check that out.
Yeah, it may be where you are in the country too. So I'm in a more conservative state, Missouri, and so no, they don't address it. They'll do a puberty class, like where they split the boys and girls up. So the puberty for the girls and boys, and then they do it again the next year where they flip. But I even have problems with that. I think we should be doing them together because that's how you build compassion for what the other person is going through. And also, I mean, just in the healthcare world, women's health has been overlooked for years.
Mm.
Like, I need those young boys to see that we women are going through stuff. So they raised into men who actually want to like research our stuff.
Yes, I agree. And I know like you do much more around like couples, but I guess it's because my son is really in this age right now that he's asking all these questions and I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean I mean he's like you only have one hole, you poop and pee out of the same and I'm like, dude, that's not how
Nope.
it works. But I'm like I don't want to give you all the details yet, right? Like but I actually had a guest at one point in time and we were talking about how she's always had really open conversations with her children and the way that she phrases it to them is that adults have it's when you're an adult you have consenting sex, so once you're old
Mhm.
enough you can have consenting sex, and so that's the conversation that they have is adding in that word like adult consenting. And
Mhm.
I actually added that into a couple of things because like he asked where do babies come, like all the things, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like where is this coming from, and he's in or he's in elementary, so
Well, there's really good books. I actually have four that I can recommend. One is all about vulvas. One is all about penises. I would say that at this age is a perfectly fine because it's just a health book about bodies and shows them what different penises and vulvas look like. So my kiddo's 10. I read her those when she was 6 and 7. They're just regular health books about how penises and vulvas work. But then now that she's 10, I'm reading her books like It's Perfectly Normal, which is an age appropriate, like sex ed book that teaches about pregnancy and different like body styles. And then I also love the book Sex is a Funny Word, which is more of a conversational book that like helps people kind of have like open-ended questions, explores. Some people feel this way, but some people feel this, which I really like. I like how it kind of presents it in different approaches, but then like asks the kid, what do you think? You know, to get them start like critically thinking. And they're all actually age appropriate for my kiddo. So you can also have resources.
yeah, I love that. Thank you for those recommendations. I'll definitely have to go check those out. Um, I do want to
Yeah.
shift to talk a little bit more about what you do specifically. We're going to go to our quick first sponsored break, but once we get back, we'll go into a little bit more. So make sure you come back. We'll be right back after this quick sponsored break.
Have you ever felt completely alone?
Like your life doesn't matter.
One person dies due to suicide every 40 seconds.
You are not alone. Call the National Suicide Lifeline at 988.
Hope and recovery is possible.
1 in 8 people globally live with a mental disorder.
That's why empowering minds saves lives.
We need your help.
With only $19 a month, you help us save lives through mental health and suicide prevention education.
Scan the QR code or go to makementalhealthmatter.org to sign up as a warrior for mental health today.
Hi everyone, I am Sinead from Brador. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. Please join me in my Power Hour every Sunday, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on E360 TV. Mwah!
We're back. If you happen to be just joining the Make Mental, I'm like, what is my show called? The Make Mental Health Matters show. Thank you so much for joining and watching. We've been having a lively conversation. Really, I know I kind of went into more youth based, but I think that that's kind of the foundation, right? Like we have to have that foundation. We have to be able to talk to our youth, and we have to be able to talk to each other, because if we don't learn it, they're gonna learn it somewhere. And it is so, I mean, just like having health go away, we have home ec that they don't do anymore. We don't do wood shop, right? Like there's all these tools and these skills that youth need to learn to become good adults, but it's very disappointing that those are going to go away, or have already gone away, really. So I do want to like shift just a little bit into how you help specifically like around couples, because you mentioned earlier that, I mean, it's not a like long-term thing, right? It's more like you get into these relationships and it could be right away, because maybe you are religious based and you sex has been so taboo, and then you go in and you're like, well, I don't even know what I'm doing, what they're doing, all these things, right? But even the ones that I guess do get in a relationship that have had their experiences before, there's, you still get into a place that sometimes it's like, I don't know, at least, so I've been, I'll use an example. I've been married for, we're going on 3 years, but we've been together for 10 as of this year. And I'm like, is that, well, we're going on 4 years married. I'm like, wow, it goes so fast. But there's often times that like I get really busy, like we have all the family things going on, and it just gets put on the back burner. So I'm curious your thoughts all around that.
So I have several things. I'll start with just the three most common couples that come see me. Okay. The first most common couple comes about 1 or 2 years after their second baby or first baby. And the reason for that one is that when women have babies, hormones literally shift when they're breastfeeding and their desire tanks. And it's actually a caretaker skill. Like it's necessary in your body to like kind of shut down some of that. So it's like, hey, don't have another one of these. All of your resources are focused on this thing, right? But what ends up happening is couples will go to their doctor and they'll say, yeah, you got about 6 weeks, for like, to heal. And then after that, you guys are good to go. But then they're not having sex because the female body is more focused on caretaking and she's tired. And both the male and female are tired with the new baby work. And so that will be like about a year after that when they consistently are struggling with sex is the first couple that actually comes to see me. And the second one is, they each find some way to justify that period, and they somehow put their noses to the grindstone and raise the kids. And then when their kids are a little bit older and more independent is the next phase. So basically school-age children, because suddenly like one of them probably kind of justified and said, once the kids get a little older, this will get better. And then it doesn't. And so then they come to me because they're like, yeah, we're still struggling with sex. We just thought with this independence, things would have gotten easier or more natural, and they didn't. We're still struggling with sex life. And now they've been dealing with it for longer. But I want you to know it always started back then. Like it started way before they come. And then the last client couple that typically comes to see me is actually when they figured that part out. Like they still didn't like their sex life that whole time, but they dealt with it and then they raised their kids and now they're empty nesters. And one of them wanted to be teenagers again. And the other one's like, I could live the rest of my life without sex. And if you think of female health throughout this, by the way, like a lot of these are linked to things that are hormonally going on with women, but the women aren't the only, like I don't want to I'm not shaming women with this statement. It's just interesting that they are connected to pregnancy, perimenopause times. Like there's some female things going on that add to it, but it's actually a bigger societal problem. And that's that we are basically burning everyone out in our society. Like the world is just sucking us dry. And so like when we're so stressed and busy, then women don't have a default to sex as a tool. Men do. And so men, when they're stressed, will be like, I want to have sex, but women will want other things like emotions and talking, or they just want alone time. And so those default tools that we gave each of the genders essentially prevents them from connecting to each other during these tough life cycle times.
That's so, I mean, and so I am of the age that I'm premenopausal, right? So like you're just like talking to me.
All right,
but
good.
yes, I'm like, but it's one business owner, feeling like I'm constantly busy, not like, all the things. And then having to be mom and having to be wife and having to be a coach and having to be the show host and like, right? Like there's all these things that take up a lot of space in my brain. And then by the time you go to bed or whatever, you're like, I'm going to sleep. Right? So I totally get it.
Yeah, well, so here's what's basically happening. So the world is sucking everyone dry. So, and happy capitalism. Right? We're all getting like just, do it all, right? Yeah. And then what happens is, so males have 3 default settings for when they're getting into stress. They have the tools of sex, or throw money at it, or violence to some degree. But like for your guys that are emotionally intelligent, it's just that strong man experience. Like I have to be tough and strong. So those are their tools. And we were denied those tools as females. So we can talk to friends. We can feel our feelings and emotionally show up, but we've been denied access to sex. We've been denied access to our anger or like boundaries essentially. So we end up being in these constant caretaker modes where we never feel like we can just be humans, but also throughout our entire lives, we were never given any permission to be sexual. And so that's not our default tool when we get stressed. And so when couples across the globe essentially are feeling super stressed, men would use sex to feel connected, but women are hoping for that emotional connection. That looks like a penis. I didn't mean to make that look like that.
That's okay.
And the reality is we need all humans to be whole, meaning like you can all have access to all of it. We need to stop denying females what they need and males what they need.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Totally. No, so my brain kind of went to promiscuity. Like if you think about and the dynamic of like if you're in a relationship and say your partner hasn't had very many experiences and you've had a whole bunch, right? Whether it's male or female. And yes, it is in the past. I'm curious, like, do you have conversations about those things? Do you leave it in the past? I feel like that's something I hear all the time. What's your number? Or I used to, I don't anymore because I'm married. But like back in the day, right? It's like, well, what is your number? Or blah, blah, blah. Or, it always becomes a thing, I feel like. Is that something that conversations are still having around that?
Yeah, well, I mean, women are still like put down for being too sexual for sure. Because again, like men are allowed to, but women are often put down for it. So if the conversation happens when people date. And I just invite people to look at how differently it's done. So if a man has like a bunch of numbers, totally cool, whatever. But for a woman, if she has more than 2 or 3, then there's like, and what's funny about that is like, how do you expect a woman to be sexually empowered if she doesn't try some stuff out and figure out what she likes? Like you expect her to be this virginal, like, all right, never try anything, never speak of anything. And now she's supposed to be a slut in the bedroom for you? That doesn't make sense.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what, it's such a different, like, they like give high fives when they have a whole bunch, right? As male, generally, not all of them,
Not in all
yeah, yeah,
situations.
yeah, yeah. But then women, I mean, yeah, it's seen as that you are a slut or like,
Yeah.
yeah. And so the interesting part I think about that is that it takes two people, right? It takes it takes two people to have sex, and so the interesting part is both of you in those moments, right? Like, yes, they may be multiple different partners, but the thing about it, and it's kind of funny because we had a whole conversation about getting pregnant, and like when women are like, well, it's his fault, and you're like, is it? Because it took both of you to make that baby.
Well, I always look at the bigger picture, right? So like you both are responsible for having a conversation about what you're going to do to protect yourselves, but the default is often that it's the woman's job to be on birth control, and like what role is it for the male to take a condom or do something as well, right? So like it's both of your jobs to look at like how we're going to prevent pregnancy. And it's often been placed on the woman to stop a man from doing so much, right? Like you have to put the brakes on, you have to decide how far the sex goes. Well, no, that's a co-created relationship. So as a team, couples need to decide, how far are we going to go? What boundaries do we set around sex? How are we as a team going to protect ourselves from unwanted pregnancy? And I mean, there's many ways to have the conversation, but if you're calling women sluts for being sexual or talking about sexual things, then we're crippling them in terms of communicating about their sexual needs or their sexual boundaries. And then if we don't give men any way to communicate about their needs or wants, then, like we're crippling them as well. Like it's a broken system and we need to change it.
Yeah. What are some like suggestions? I'm sure you've probably thought about this a lot, but like what are some suggestions or ways that we can like shift those conversations, but like even the words that we use? Like I know slut is we've been using that word, but like what can people say or do instead?
Well, so, I know we were talking about kids, but I'm really starting with the young generation and how I talk to my own child and like the children that are in her circle. So like friends that come over. So even at crush stage, right? So when a young kid has a crush, I've seen language on Facebook where people are like, you don't have time for that. I need you to focus on school. Well, a crush is a child's first relationship with love and intimacy. And so first it starts with showing compassion towards just natural emotions around love and intimacy at young ages. Like, yeah, when my daughter had a crush on this boy, his name is, I shouldn't say it. Okay. So young boy down the street at the bus stop. And she was like, I have a crush on. And I was like, oh, you do? Well, what's that feel like in your body? And she's like, oh, it feels like warm in my face. And I feel like tight in my shoulders. And I was like, yeah, isn't a crush nice feeling? It's a good feeling to have a crush. And she's like, I was like, well, so then this is where I have an opportunity. First, I've given her freedom and permission to feel exactly what she's feeling. And now I have an avenue to talk to her and educate her, give her skills, right? And so I said, well, do you think you'll ever like talk with him? And she's like, no. She's terrified. I'm like, okay, well, you don't have to. But if you ever did, like that would be the first step, is just have a conversation. Like right now she's 10, so she's at way low level. But if you think of this as they get older, same thing. Like say somebody has an interest in somebody, give full permission to, like, if you're the parent, feel that experience, talk about what's it like, how's it feel in your body. The reason I do the how's it feel in your body is because I really want her to have body awareness and sensational awareness, and it's how you set boundaries. When you learn how your body physically feels, are you comfortable or not comfortable, your body actually gives you signals of no. And so, or I'm not sure, I'm uncomfortable. So I even want her to know, like, when I feel uncomfortable, what can I do? What boundary may I need to set for this so that I feel a little more comfortable? I do this with adults too, by the way. So I know I'm talking about my kid, but like in my adult work is basically teaching people to get out of dissociation and back into their bodies. I actually have games. I walk individuals or couples through where they start to learn what a yes feels like in their body, what a no feels like, and a maybe. And usually a maybe is a context, right? So like, all right, when you're in a maybe, and then I ask, part of the game is, okay, well, what would make it more of a yes? What would make it more of a no? And that's how people can actually identify their boundaries and be more clear with their partner about what they need or might want in that situation.
Wow, that's fascinating. And I know, because I've done some work right with the, I don't know what it's called, but yeah, using your body for that yes and the no. And
It's somatic work.
somatic work. That's what I was like, what is the name?
It's somatic. Don't worry,
yeah.
we're both therapists.
Right. Like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, so no, I love, like, it's so interesting because I had a speaking event at a high school. And it was a mental health club they were all happened to be girls. And one of the girls asked, she's like, well, what do I do when somebody's crying? And I reflected it back. I was like, well, how does it make you feel? Right. So like, I love that you use that feeling aspect. And then, and I asked her, I was like, how does that make you feel in your body? Like, what sensations come up when somebody cries in front of you? And so it's fascinating that you also use those tools because it's like that body, like I can feel really uncomfortable, or like, how do I get out of that fight or flight, as you said earlier too, because that's where our body just like locks up and you're like, I don't know what to do. So I love that you ask your daughter, how it feels. And that's where I generally go with my son too. So same age. Is what is the feeling? Like, where is the feeling? How is that, right? So understanding that we can experience things in our body that can tell us or give us information. So I love that you do that. We're going to go to our last quick sponsor break, but once we get back, if you have any tools that you might want to give to people, or I don't know, we'll see where it goes. So we'll be right back after this quick sponsor break.
1,917 people die daily from suicide globally.
I lost my middle sister, Carrie, to a completed suicide on February 20th, 2017.
How does Kelli, host of the Make Mental Health Matter show, impact lives? Number 1. Awareness.
My story, all over it, isn't unique. I am a domestic violence survivor and a recovering addict. For 14 years, I was in active addiction, and because of Kelli and the work that she does and the opportunity to have my voice heard, I was able to stay clean and sober and have hit a year. I'm still here, and if it wasn't for Kelli answering my call the day that I thought I was going to take my life.
2. Conversation.
I'm curious, and I know that I've heard a lot in the BIPOC community, it is very hush-hush. It's like one of those things that you don't talk about. Like, you literally feel like it's not a conversation you can have. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
First, shout out to Kelli, because I'm glad that she asked the question. I researched you before I went on your show, and I saw how real and authentic you were. And I just appreciate the question because it is different, and we have to have tough, courageous conversations. So yes, I always say I'm a triple diversity threat. I'm a Black woman with multiple disabilities. Now, I'm not really a threat, but to other people, I may be, because people fear the unknown and what they're uncomfortable with.
Number 3. Education.
Kelli's passionate commitment to mental health awareness is a beautiful thing. It's clear in her social media posts, it's clear in the resources that she puts together, in the activities that she provides, her collaboration with organizations, and the consistent way that she continues to deliver a message, encouraging people to understand that they can share openly and to break the stigma around mental health. Kelli's topics cover children and adults, talk about things that we can do as a community, things that we can do individually, and her website is packed with information and resources and all kinds of contacts that you can use to reach out, whether you're dealing with something yourself or you're looking to help somebody else who is struggling. I encourage you to check it out.
And like that, we're back again. If you happen to be just joining or tuning in to the Make Mental Health Matter show, make sure you go back because you'd missed the whole beginning. And we've been having juicy conversations really around relationships, partnerships, sex. We've also talked about youth and how we can have open conversations as parents with our youth. Because, again, if we don't tell them, they're going to learn it somewhere else. So we were talking about before we went to the break, really about how like somatic or feeling in your body when you have a reaction or a response, and you were talking about having a crush. I have also noticed, especially like with my husband and it being a boy, right? My son, that because there was one point that he said he had two girlfriends, and we're like, oh, two, okay. And then they ended up finding out about each other, and then they didn't want to be with him. And I was like, well, what does it mean to have a girlfriend? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, right? So it was just so funny that, I mean, that was actually a couple years ago. So he was a lot younger, but it's just so funny that they pick up these words, but we don't really know what it's all about. But I love that you were talking about how you tap in more into the body and how that feels.
Yeah, I mean, I do it with adults too. So I know we've talked a lot about youth. I think as it starts there, but like as adults, there are a lot of people who are so dissociated from their bodies that they don't even know how to make a boundary with their partner. And actually, I think this could be a fun place to enter my sobriety story, since I do have, okay, so I actually have 3 books, and this is a 4th book that I contributed to. It's an anthology. It's called It's About Time, and I write my sobriety story. And I can even say that I have been very numb. Like, so alcohol and alcoholism is a sense of numbness and dissociation that's chemical, right? And so I had gotten so burnt out and exhausted in my own life that I was using alcohol to chemically basically numb, shut down the thoughts in my head. And as a result, even I had lost access to my own body. And so what's interesting is as I got sober, so I'm sober 2.5 years, and the whole first year for me was learning to emotionally re-regulate my body. Because once you've used alcohol at that level for so long, it's like, I used to drink like a bottle of wine a day, and my body, that's what you get used to. Your body gets used to using the alcohol chemical to like, live, survive. And so I wasn't like dependent to the point of shakes necessarily, but my body basically took a whole year to re-regulate and to re-experience body sensations. And so what's funny is like some of what I teach my clients in terms of getting out of dissociation and getting back into their bodies is the same skill that I had to learn as a part of getting sober, of like, oh, okay, when your body's high, like you can get almost overstimulated. So what do you need to do to kind of bring it back down and come back to low spaces? And that you do need to get low sometimes. Like I'm ADHD, so I can get like on these dopamine tangents. I'm like, oh, this is great and everything, it's fun. But then my brain won't shut off. And that was why I couldn't sleep, right? And so I had to learn things like yoga, slowing down, getting in your body. I had to learn to change inner monologue so that I was kinder to myself. And all of the same skills I've had to learn to become a sober person are similar skills I have to teach my clients when they're reconnecting to sex and reconnecting to their body if they've had trauma histories, or if they're males. So, because males have access to sex, right? But they don't have access to their emotional connection sometimes. So like for them, I might have them learn how to like access sadness or vulnerability or like those emotions we don't give men freedom to feel. And it's interesting because when you're working with couples, you're almost doing this like juggle, right? Like how do I give space for both of them without alienating them? Because we essentially have socialized them completely different.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so it's like that balance of and even, I mean, I know we're talking about male female partner, right? But I think this really goes any partnership, right?
Any LGBTQ group,
Yeah, I mean, no matter who you love, it can definitely both dynamics, and it's so fascinating. Like, so you talk about and congratulations on 2.5 years. That's awesome.
Yeah, I am proud of that. Thanks.
I actually stopped drinking last April.
Yeah.
It's almost a year for me, which is I wasn't a super heavy drinker, but when I drank, I didn't know how to stop. So that was
Yeah.
and it has been really interesting. More so because I also used to dance back in the day, and I would. I guess the biggest one was when we had our gala this last year, and I didn't have a glass of wine, or I didn't have multiple glasses of wine, right? And I was like, do I dance? Like, I'm not sure. Like, I felt like I was like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, I had that moment of like, I still can dance
Yes.
without using substances, right? Alcohol.
Mhm.
But it's interesting to reconnect into
Yeah.
your body. And I did a transformation academy years and years and years ago, but one of the activities that we did was walking on glass. And I freaked out because everything else we did, so we did like skydiving, we did walking on fire, we did all these extreme things to get out of fear. And then when I saw the glass, I freaked out and I started crying and I was like, what is happening? And what I realized is that my mind was no longer connected to my feet because like I used to dance and that was like a thing that I wasn't doing after my sister passed, and I was scared that I was going to cut my feet because I didn't feel connected to them, which was so interesting. So I think it's one of those things like you have to get reconnected in your body. So I could totally see how this is also associated or being disassociated when we talk about sex.
Absolutely. Think of a vagina, right? Like how many women are so dissociated from their vaginas that like they have been participating in obligatory sex for years. And so like one of the things I'll tell women is I never want you to have obligatory sex again. I really want you to have sex because you want to, not because you have to. And it's not like they have rapist men. I really want to say this. Like they're doing it themselves because that's what they've been told to do. And women have been taught caretake, caretake, caretake. Do everything for everyone else. You're last. And that's why we end up having drinking problems, by the way. Like, because if my job is to be everything for everyone and I don't have any space for myself, what else is there to do but to drink and to numb how exhausted that is? Right? So like, yeah, it's funny you mentioned dancing. I'm a dancer too. And like one of the ways that I started to like re-regulate is doing something I call wildling dancing, which is where I just play music and there's no pattern to it. There's just me being in my body and moving in fun and playful ways. But going back to this sort of like being connected to your own vagina. So like, all right, to bring it all around, you can see my ADHD in my talking, right? Like if you're disconnected with any part of your body, then how can you have pleasure in it, right? Like you've essentially lost access to pleasure. So women who come to me who are like, I haven't orgasms or I don't enjoy sex. It's like, well, no, you're dissociated in sex. And so first we have to get you back in a mind-body connection and being a person again, not a constant caretaker. And then we have to connect you to your sexual self.
Wow. Yeah. There's so many layers.
There's so many layers.
Right.
This is what happens when you get two therapists together.
Right. Like tell me all your things, everything. Yeah.
I know, right? It's fine.
But it's so refreshing to have somebody like yourself that does and is willing to open up these conversations, right? Because we want to make sure whether we're talking about youth or we're talking about adults or we're talking about, I'm like, what else are there? There's youth and adults. So
there's aging adults, right?
There's
old
aging
people
adults.
love to have sex too, and I
That's
want them to
true.
have great sex lives.
Yeah, that's so true too, because they often, you look at those couples that have been together for years and years and years. I love the little, I've seen, I don't know if it's on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, but the older couples that are like dancing in the park and they're kissing and it's like the cutest thing ever.
Yeah. Well, and so like back to, like all these pieces. So everything I do is in service to normalizing conversations about sex. That's my goal. With the Open Bedroom Doors show, with my website, openbedroomdoors.com, even with the event Dinner with a Sex Therapist, it's all in service to normalizing conversations about sex, because when we normalize conversations about sex, it's in the parasympathetic nervous system. We can make conscious, more reasonable, rational decisions around our sex lives, and we can have access to our sexual bodies. When sex is in the sympathetic nervous system, so I'm going to get all the way back to the beginning, right? You can't, like, one, you can't enjoy it as much. Like, it doesn't mean you can't orgasm during it. You can, but it's not as good as if you're fully present in your body. You lose access to your sense of quality of life when you're constantly in fight, flight. And also that's like what leads to all the other medical conditions, is people are just chronically living in that system. And it leads, the burnout is happening because people don't have a whole quality of life. And some of that is systemic too. I mean, I can go deep in like layers, but I want to keep it human language. So point being, like, the way to kind of like come back to each other is through play, giving yourself permission to play and have fun again, giving yourself permission to not, for women, you don't have to be everything to everyone, and like saying no to some of that. Like, no, I'm not going to do everything for everyone. No, I'm not going to constantly give. I need to give back to me, because if you don't, then like you have to be a person, like a human person, before you can be a sexual person. And that means getting out of caretaker role and getting into like who you are. And like, it may look like dancing again. Like if there was a version of you before that, like, I used to like to do this and I used to like to do this, then I need you to find that like version of yourself that's like, no, I'm still a dancer. I still dance and I love to dance. I'm a singer too, and I like to sing. And these are the things that make me, like, my soul sparkle. You need to have a space like that to become then like connected to that sexual version of yourself.
I love that. I actually, so there's a group in Colorado, they're called the Airheads, and they are women, older, well, like middle-aged women that get the like blow-up costumes and go dance.
I love it.
I'm totally applying this year because I was like, I need more fun, and who cares? You're in a blow-up costume. I'm like, I got to figure out which one I want, but yeah, I'm like, it's just gonna be fun to be able to get back to it. And they do parades, they do like halftime shows, and it just seems like super fun. So yeah, I love playing around, right? Like, we have to even go back to childhood. Like, where is that play? And also, where are our boundaries for ourselves, but also in the bedroom, right? Like, you can ask for things that you need, or you can address things that you don't want, right? So empowering ourselves as humans, I think, is really, really important. Whether it is having conversations, again, as parents with our youth, having conversations with our partner, and just making sure that we're helping ourselves. I love that you said that is, let's get back to play, because it's so much more fun.
It is. And I will say that a lot of the women I work with do need more hand holding to figure out their erotic selves. So like, step one is getting back to who you are as a person outside of the caretaker role. But step two with me is often developing erotic intelligence and learning how to access what is sexual play, what is fun for me, what are the things that help warm my body, and not just in one sexual instance. I mean, like, globally. So like, one of the things I work on with my couples is teaching them how to keep a warm environment all the time. Essentially, like, if you think of it like a crock pot, you're keeping the meal warm every day, not just like, okay, now that we're away from all this stuff we've had to do all day, now we're going to do this. Like, it takes longer than that to get warmed for women than to men, because we have given men that, like, that was the tool we gave men. So men can, it's not that men are biologically more wired for sex. It's that men were given access to sex from a young age and we were denied access. And so women struggle with extra steps to get there, but men struggle with extra steps to get to emotional and vulnerability, like emotional connection and vulnerability. And really, it was just, we're all whole humans and we all need access to all of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That makes so much sense too. And my husband and I have had that conversation. He's like, well, why do I always have to start it? And I'm like, because it takes me longer. So I'm like, but I love the daily, right? Like, it's not just we're gonna pick Tuesday or we're gonna pick Friday or whatever, right? Like it's got to be a all encompassing, and I think that's where at least for me is like the disconnect starts to happen is when we're not fostering it on a daily basis, or I'm allowing all these other things that I have to do to take over versus focusing even on like family, right? Like not so much just in the bedroom, but also just the family and feeling connected in those ways. So I love that you mentioned those are really the steps. I would love for you, because we're coming up to the end, but I would love for you to share a little bit more about your practice and then also a little bit about your show.
Sure. So you can find me at openbedroomdoors.com and submit a contact form to see me as a therapist, sex therapist, or marriage therapist. And the Open Bedroom Door Show airs every Thursday night at 9 p.m. on E360TV.com. And then also I have all kinds of fun things. I do couples retreats. I have one coming up in April that I am focusing a bit on the police and EMS and their wives or partners, because you can be any gendered person in the police force. But I do have couples retreats that I tailor to specific groups that are teaching some of these concepts. And then my dinner with a sex therapist is happening Valentine's Day, February 14th. I actually have a mattress sponsor, so I will be answering sex questions in bed because it's hilarious.
That's awesome. Yes. And for those of you that are listening, so it's open, OPEN, bedroom, BEDROOM, doors, DOORS.com that you can go to. Any final thoughts or things?
Yeah, one final thought is it's okay to not know things. Like we're all figuring it out, learning and growing. And so I just want you to keep remembering that, like, even if you heard a lot of stuff today that you're like, whoa, oh no, well, how do we, like, it's okay to not know things. It's okay to have not known this up to this point. Just keep taking steps and figuring things out as you go. Because a lot of sex is actually just effing around and finding out. Let's be honest.
Right. Yes.
So, like, just keep learning, be kind to yourself, and it's okay to not know things. If you want some information, come talk to me. I'm here.
Absolutely. No, I think definitely, like, this was such a great conversation. I think we covered so much in this time. I appreciate you again just being fully transparent, and I mean, I think that is part of having these open and possibly hard conversations for people, but we can make them really, really easy the more that we have those conversations.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being an amazing guest.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yay. All right, y'all, that was an amazing episode. I don't know about you, but it just seems like we need to have more of these conversations, right? Like, how do we really, truly, whether it is with our partner, whether it is with our kids, or I don't know, like I've had those conversations, like I was saying, a lot with my son and then I've had those moments that I'm like, what do I say? What don't I say? Thinking about being age appropriate, but also if he's asking me these questions, he probably is hearing it from somewhere. So it's like, what does he already know? What does he not know? So it's very fascinating as a parent, to have these conversations, but I also believe that they're very, very needed. And it is really, really important that we have the conversations with our partners. We set those boundaries. We also set the boundaries in our own lives, because if we are not a human, as that whole person, right? Like, we need to get back to play. We need to get back to who we maybe, I don't want to say we were, but who we still are, and pull those things out of our bodies and figure out what's going on, or I don't know. My brain is like, that's such a great combo. I don't even need to add anything else. So no matter what you do, make sure you come back next week. I go live every single Monday at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. on Dream Vision 7 Radio, or you can watch on E360 TV at 5 p.m. Mountain Denver time. I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.